here we are. This is S.x Love Psychedelics, and I'm your host, Dr. Kat, bringing you psychosexual conversations that will leave you intellectually turned on and hungry for more.
You as being a leader in the sex education world, it's like, men want to be sex workers. They want to teach around sexuality. And I'll be honest, Yossef, some of them, and many of them, I wouldn't want to be within 20 feet of.
Yeah.
As a cisgender male, you being in high integrity of your work, what do you think? What do you have to be conscious of? Or, these parts, and I'm integrating the question that you just said. There's this part of me that wants to be chaotic, and there's this part of me that wants to be kind, that wants to be safe, that wants to be, you all, like, I see you as a safe container. So how do you manage all these parts and still show up as this integritous leader in this field?
That's a great question. There's a couple of things that come to mind. And I think the first one is constantly questioning myself. Am I being in integrity? Am I still being in integrity? Like looking at the shadow, looking at the things that come up before they become actions, when they're still just like desires, inklings in the head, and like wondering, is that an integrity? And then recognizing that if there's something inside of me, it deserves to have its existence and it's right for expression. But the question is, in what container does it get to be expressed? Because it's something very different being in a professional container with someone than being in a playful container that's mutual.
Yeah.
So I think where we see a lot of the trouble in the industry is that those lines start getting blurred. And I can behave the same way when I'm holding a container for someone else's growth than when I'm in a mutually explorative container. Right? Because when whether it's an event or I'm working with a couple or an individual and leaning into this kind of work, I'm of pure service to them. So even like, I know, I created my own negotiation document for scenes, for BDSM scenes, and it's heavily influenced by yours and a couple other people. So I've got so much gratitude for you, and I have your name at the bottom of it, so everyone knows that I got a lot of it from you. But so I have one for a dom and one for a sub. I have two different forms when I create things. So if I'm going to step into the scene with someone professionally and I'm the dom, I don't even fill my dom form. I just have them fill the sub form. I have my own boundaries around it. I get to choose my boundaries, but I don't bring my desires into that container. Whereas if I'm going to have a playful interaction with someone where it's mutual, I will fill out my form, they'll fill out their form, and then we look for the Venn diagram of where things overlap. Is the difference there? So there's a space for my desires, which might include things that are more primal or more chaotic or, more expression of myself. There's a space for that, but it's not the professional work that I do.
Oh, I love that. And so you're describing this in the context of the power dynamic of teacher student, or, dominant and submissive, where you're not, again, it's not about you getting what you need, but it's even thinking about, like, how do we expand that into bringing in the conscious awareness into other relationships as well of this same dynamic?
Yeah. If I want to, I just know for myself, if I want to express certain parts of myself, I want to know that I'm going to be held that experience. I want to know that there's really space for my full expression. And how would I do that? Well, it's to have a conversation with someone and knowing, first of all, that they're willing to do it. And even if they're willing, are they able to? Because someone might say, yeah, I can do that for you. But if I don't feel that, I'm going to hold back.
How do you feel that?
I think it's a combination. By now are these sort of like imperceptible subconscious things, but it's a combination of things that I pick up in my mind, of qualifications of the person, and a sense in my body of safety around them, and a sense that, they can really hold that. And I think I know what it's like when I go there and I hold that space. So I know how I feel there. So it gives me a sense of how I would feel being held in that space.
And so for the lay person who's not understanding the concept of feeling, how would you describe them to identify that?
That's great. So I would say it's a regulated nervous system, which means that my breath is calm, it's slow, there are deep and long breaths, my heartbeat is really slow and regulated. There's very little tension in my muscles. I feel very loose in that space. So there's a lot of like physical markers that I can feel in my body, and the combination of those mean, oh, I'm safe. Whereas if I'm like sweaty, if I'm fidgety, if I'm tense, if I'm breathing faster, I know, okay, I don't feel so safe in this situation.
Yeah. And for either of those to sit, like you said earlier, to sit and reflect on, to ask the question, how is it that I'm feeling right now? I'm noticing these symptoms. What is it that's indicating, or what am I noticing in that? Because right now I still feel in outer space after Burning Man. Yeah. So I'm like, and I just drank a cup of coffee. So part of me recognizes some of those same symptoms, but I know that I'm safe with you.
Well, that was fun. Thanks for tuning in, lovers. And if you want to experience more ecstasy and sexual liberation, head over to sexlovepsychedelics.com and learn about how you can join me for any one of my online or live events. And while you're there, grab my free guide on sex and psychedelics. Remember, this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please contact your healthcare provider and local law before pursuing any of the products or psychedelics discussed. And one final note here. I make this show specifically for you. If you're loving the show, then be sure to leave me a review in iTunes or Spotify to let me know. Happy to be here and happy to serve. I'll see you next time on Sex, Love, Psychedelics.